Hey guys, in this video I wanted to show you how to set up integration tests for GraphQL subscriptions. Here I'm using Nestjs application, but you can use it for just a regular Apollo server with Express or whichever framework you are using. So I did set up a subscriptions before in a previous video, but let's go quickly through this project. And before that, just a brief introduction that I didn't find any documentation regarding subscription testing either in Nest or Apollo or in GraphQL itself. So I had to do quite a lot of digging, and all I found was for older versions of Apollo, which doesn't work anymore. So this is maybe not the best solution there is. But in any case, I'm open to discussion. If you have any ideas how to do integration testing better, well, I'll be glad to discuss it with you, but I'll show you my approach. Yeah, let's go into the code straight away. So before that, I'll show you how the project works, what's the setup. So basically we have a app module. Here we have a GraphQL module itself. So we're initializing subscriptions. And yeah, a few words regarding this protocol, GraphQL WebSocket. It was recommended by Nestjs documentation, but at my work we started to use it and we had lots of problems with it. So there were problems with throwing errors on connection, on disconnect. We had problems with Redis, and when we were using Kubernetes with the connection, and we had problems with testing. So we actually switched to another protocol, subscription transfer WS. I'm actually going to save it here as well. But for the testing, it won't matter. But it won't matter what we are passing in this module, but we will use this protocol for the test itself. I will show you in the test, you will understand what I mean. So yeah, let's continue with the overview. So here we are just adding two modules, which is pub/sub module here. So we are actually providing pub/sub, which is providing the instance of Redis pub/sub. And here we have a person module. It just provides the resolver, and this resolver has, as you can see, one mutation, one subscription. There is no services, there is no repository, there is no database. So we just have an array and we are pushing data into array. Then we are using the provided pub/sub to publish the event with this payload. And then we are listening to it. And obviously the entire payload, whatever we are passing into add person, so the entire person's payload will be returned in the subscription as well. So this is what we're going to test as well. So we will be adding a person and we will check if we are getting the same person through the subscription. And then we can obviously mutate person here, do some changes here like person dot name, like override it. Yeah, we have a person input which has ID, name, and email. So we can override it here, for example, to make sure that the test is correct. And yeah, let's start writing the test basically. So we have a person resolver here, the test for resolver. I'm gonna use it as a boilerplate. I'm gonna paste it here and rename it. So I'm just gonna call it pub/sub.ts. All right, so I prefer to call this module fixture, model fixture. All right, so what we need to do, we need to start the application. The first thing I would like to approach is to make sure that we're getting the resolver and it works. So let's initialize the application. So here we will make a separate variable application and it will be of type iNest application. And here we'll initialize the app. It will equal to the neutral fixture. And here create Nest application. And then we will await for the, sorry, we'll run app init, and yeah, after that app initializes and the test should work actually. Let's just check it out. All right, yeah, we need to actually to change the name of the file so we can run the tests. We go to add spec here All right, and as you can see here, I have run and debug. If you're interested in that, I have this just runner, which provides this option. So I'm just going to click run here, and it will run test. Uh, and actually, yeah, I've realized that we need to change the providers to imports. And let's change these before each to before all. So we just initialize it once. And as well, we need to make changes to pub-sub, not this one, in the pub-sub module. So we're not going to use Redis here. Before I was using Redis through Docker. So here we're just going to use the local implementation because we don't need to connect to Redis to make our tests. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to return this function only if we are not running tests. So to make sure that we are running tests, I'm gonna get the environment variable, the node-env basically. So it's gonna be config service.get node env. This will be a type of string, and actually this ain't gonna be here and here. And if env is test, and when we are running tests, it is test, then return just new pub sub. All right, so it's just going to be in memory. All right, now let's test the tests. Let's check if the test works, basically. All right, so the resolver is working and it's all good. All right, now let's start implementing basically the subscriptions themselves. So for that, we need to add quite just the two modules. Yarn, that we're going to run yarn add, and we will add I'm going to use the mock implementation of the WebSockets, and I'm going to use the Apollo client as well. So we're going to run the mock WebSockets, mock server, and we're going to create a GraphQL client and basically run the test from the client into the mock server. All right, let's move on and you will see what I mean. So I'm gonna add quite a few imports and then we will see what they're doing. So I'm gonna pause it for now and we'll continue. All right, so I've added quite a few imports here. As you can see, mostly of them is from our mock WebSocket, from subscription transfer WS. This is where we're going to use the subscription server, GraphQL, Apollo server, and then from Apollo client. All right, so obviously we're going to create a GraphQL client and the subscription server separately. All right, so I've created already before each where we're going to initialize the GraphQL client. So here I'm just creating a random number, which is going to be our port and WebSocket URI. So let me just type out a little bit of the code and I will explain what I'm doing. So next thing, we need to add a custom server, which is going to use our mock server, and it will run on our WebSocket URI. The next thing, we need to create our subscription server, and it will take options, the schema, execute, and subscribe. All right, so and we need to pass in the custom server, the server which we will use for the subscription. All right, so where we're gonna get the schema, we will get schema from our Nest application. So schema will be app.get, and here we should, let me just check the name. It should be GraphQL schema host. All right, and here it will be just schema like so. All right, and this will return the schema which we are using in our Nestjs application. All right, and the execute and subscribe, we are just importing them from GraphQL package. And after that, we need to create a WebSocket link for the client. So it will be vs link. So this is basically from documentation of Apollo. WebSocket link URI will be our WebSocket URI. And we need to add the WebSocket implementation, and this will be WebSocket, and this WebSocket we are importing from our mock socket. All right, and now we are from all of that we are returning the Apollo client with the configurations we just created. So the link will be our VS link, and we need to specify what will be the cache, and it will be just the in-memory cache. All right, and so what is this return Apollo client? Yeah, like so. So let me just copy it so we can add the types to GraphQL client. All right, everything seems to work. Oh yes, and this is obviously a function which returns the following. All right. Yeah, looks good to me now. All right, so what we are doing here, let's just go through it quickly. So I'm creating a subscription server. Although I have a Nest application here with GraphQL module, and I have already a subscription right in it. So where's the add module, right? So we are creating it here, but I've tried several methods, several approaches, and I wasn't able to connect to it. So this is the only way I was able to create a subscription server. And yeah, that's why I basically I'm running two servers. I'm creating the Nest server, and then I'm creating a separate subscription server through the basically Apollo's approach. Although the Nestjs is uses GraphQL is basically an abstraction on top of Apollo, but I wasn't able to connect to it. I wasn't able to specify a custom port or anything. So this is the only approach I was able to find. And for testing, it seems to work. But yeah, once again, if you have any suggestions, let me know. But I'm gonna move on. So basically, we're creating a WebSocket link, which uses the same port as our server. So as you can see, we're creating this mock server, specifying it here. Then we're creating the what I mentioned, the WebSocket link with the following port, and we are initializing the Apollo client. And now we're going to use this GraphQL client to run these subscriptions. So now we're going to write the actual test. Let me just add result that should be defined because it looks weird. All right, so here we will write a test and should return new person on subscription. Right, and this will take done. All right, so what we are doing here once again, let me just split the screen and yeah, like so. Let me just make this bigger for now. So as you can see here, we have a person and new person. So this is a mutation. So whenever we are adding a person, we are pushing it into our array. So here you will basically add it to your database, whatever, and we are publishing this event. And before that, we need to subscribe to this specific event. So we need to run the subscription first. We start listening to this event. So the first argument is the trigger, and this is basically just a string, new person, and then we are passing the payload. And this way, subscription will be returning us as a notification, this new person. All right, so let's write the test out. So the first thing we need to do is to subscribe, and then we will add the person and get the same true subscription. All right, so to subscribe, we will add the our GraphQL client. We will initialize it, and here we should have a subscribe. Yes. All right, so here we will add a query, and this will be GraphQL query, and here we will add sub in here. Subscription, let's call it subscription as well. This will be a new person, and let me just show you the schema one more time. So our person has ID, email, and a name. So we're gonna get the same data, name and email. All right, and yeah, this is pretty much it. So we initiated the subscribe, and now we need to subscribe one more time. So this function returns an observable, and now we are subscribing to an observable. Well, I hope it makes sense. If you work with RxJS or um, with the observables, basically, it's an alternative to promises, and this is what the subscriptions in GraphQL use. Nevertheless, if you're interested, just Google what's the subscriptions or what the observables are. All right, so basically the our subscribe on observable has a two method next, and as well we have an error to track the errors. So here we'll just log the error in case it happens, and we'll run done here as well. And in the next, basically we are specifying what we're gonna run once the observable resolves in a way. I don't know what's the correct arrives. Sorry, not sure what the correct term, but basically once we get the data. So this data should contain the new person itself, the payload, and that's why we should be able to extract the new person from the data. And let's hit the done here. And for now, this will be it. I'm just gonna add a breakpoint here, and we will check the data, which data arrives here. And so I will add as well a timeout, and in the timeout, I'm going to run the mutation itself. So I will resolver, and we will run add person, and let's add a person input somewhere. So I'm going to specify it here, or actually, let's keep it all in the same place. Person, it will be of the type person input, and it will contain email, I don't know, john@gmail.com, name, John as well, and the ID 1. All right, so now let's add it as a person. So the method add person takes an argument person, which is a person input, and then passes it in the payload with as a new person. That's why we can extract it in here from the data. And here we will add 100 millisecond, and the overall test, let's wait for about 2 seconds. I think it should be enough. Yeah, added to the wrong place. Yeah, I think I missed. Yeah, I messed up a bit. So this should go in here, and give it 2 seconds. All right, so why am I adding the timeout? Because this subscription, the connection to WebSocket doesn't get created immediately. So that's why we just create a small delay to make sure that the connection got established, and then we are making a mutation once the subscription already listening to the changes. So 100 milliseconds should be enough, but you might need to play around with this number. All right, so let's run the debug and see what we are getting in the payload. All right, so we hit the payload, and as you can see, we got new person here, and the email is the same what we passed in, John, and we're getting as well a type name. All right, this is awesome. Basically, the test is already working. So let's add some checks. Let's stop it for now. All right, so from the new person, we can extract a type name. And the rest of the person, I don't know, I'm gonna call it as well the person. And now we can write and expect. We will expect that the person to equal person, which we're passing in here. And we can make an assertions on the type name, just in case if you will be subscribing on multiple entities at the same time. I don't know, for example, you have a client and you have some, I don't know, product and whatever you're subscribing on both of them, you can add. That's what I'm doing actually. I'm adding checks for the type that I'm getting correct type as well. And for that, probably you will need to create a union type in the GraphQL and then add a field resolvers. But this is topic for a separate video, but just I'm going to show you that's what I'm doing. So I'm checking for the types here as well to make sure that the type is person. And now, yeah, let's run the test and see that everything is good. All right, the test passed. As you can see in the console log, we got the person as well. All right, now let's create a failing test to make sure that the subscription actually work and it's not just some magic JavaScript reference working in here. All right, just joking, but nevertheless. All right, let's go into our person resolver and yeah, let's just close these terminals for now. And so here we're passing the entire person. Let's just pass an empty object in here and see what will happen. All right. So as you can see, the test failed. We expected, this is what we expected, and we got email null, ID null, and name null. So the test works. The failing test works as well. So yeah, I think it's all good. So this is overall my testing approach. Once again, maybe not ideal. So overall, what we are doing actually, we are before subscribing, we are creating some entities, then we are creating subscription, then we are adding mutations here, and we are expecting that they will be returned in the data. So you can play around with it, but the overall idea, I think you got it. So everything will be in the GitHub repositories will be in the description. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.